Hello, and welcome to episode 274 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Jordan Willis.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining for today's episode. We got the wonderful game dev Zachary Gardner on the show. How's it going, Zach?
I'm good.
Zach is here to talk to us about the game he just released, Garbanzo Quest. Before that, we're going to get into all the news. Zephyr's Pass had a physical delay, unfortunately. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom previews are out, and Mario and Luigi Brothership got a new trailer drop. I'm super excited for that game. I'll talk about that more in a bit, but before we get into all that, getting all the news and the rumors of the week, how's everyone doing this week?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm having an okay time. It's been downs over the past few days. I'm sure we'll get to some of that, but there's also been a lot of ups. I had a good weekend for the most part. Went to 2 concerts this weekend. Friday, Jordan, I saw you at an electronics show. That was a lot of fun.
First time we've ever met in person.
That's not true. That's not true, but it is for the bit. And then, believe me, Zach, that was a bit. You just had to be there. Anyway, but yeah, no, that was a ton of fun. Exploded Drawing, I believe it's called. Oh, my cat's in the background.
Kitty.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Yeah, Cosmo. Yeah.
Cosmo? Cosmo.
Yeah, Cosmo's a good boy. Just another reason to subscribe to us on YouTube so you can see the silhouette of my cat. But yeah, that was a great time doing that. And then I saw the band Y on Saturday. That was also a really great concert. Always love to see them as well. But yeah, that's been mostly what I've been doing for the past week, just working a lot. And yeah, what about y'all?
Yeah, as you kind of alluded to, there's a bit of a heavy news, but we're going to talk about that in a minute over the last day or so. But aside from that, I am doing really good. I have a lot of positive momentum right now on the indie game I am making, which we're not going to be talking a lot about today, but it's just going really well in terms of just, it's all about momentum, and I have good momentum, and I'm solving problems, and I'm fixing things. And so that's going good. And that's really been the main thing that's been going on with me.
Yeah, doing pretty good over here. Had a pretty busy weekend. I mean, the weather's finally starting to cool down here, which is hilarious to me that it gets to 95 degrees in Austin and everyone's like, fall is here, let's go. And it's like, dude, it's still 95 degrees outside.
It is 107 in LA today.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they're in a big ass heat wave. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw David in the wild, unplanned on Friday, which hasn't happened in a minute. So that was really nice. On Saturday, got together with some friends and played video games and drank some whiskeys. And then yesterday, man, we had a really good day. We just kind of vibed. We went to the Austin Creative Reuse, and I got some new stuff to photograph. I've been doing little studio setups in my house on a table I got little things to kind of decorate. I've been calling it I Spy Core. So I'm really excited to keep going with that with new materials. I kind of exhausted the materials I already had. But then after that, we went and got a snow cone at Casey's Snow Cones. And I hadn't been there in a minute. New Orleans Snow Cones in Austin. Excellent. So good. And then we went to Art Museum. My partner's brother was working over there and said, hey, there's a free event going on. They have free coffee, free drinks. Come check it out and look at the art. And it was a nice art talk. He brings in dirt or sand from the area that he's making the exhibit, and then has this tool that has a joystick that he molds the area on the spot wherever the exhibit is. And it can never be reproduced. It can never be sold because it just deteriorates. And it was just a really cool piece to see as well, and then hear him talk about it. But anyway, I feel like I've gone a little bit long, but point being, a lot of positive moments this past weekend. It was a pretty good weekend. Zach, how have you been doing? Your game came out. How's that been?
Yeah. The response has been really positive. Yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun, watching streams of people playing the game. And we just set up the speedrun.com page, which I love speedruns. Nice. So I'm excited to see those runs come out, because when I was designing the game, I definitely, in the back of my mind, I was making sure the game would be fun for speedrunners and stuff too.
Hell yeah. Yeah, there's definitely times when I was playing the game where I was like, oh, how would I do this in an any percent or something?
Right,
Like I'm like pre-routing it in my head as I'm playing, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
No badge runs.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's been. I'm just like really tired. You know, I made the game by myself, so like I really just gave it everything I had.
We'll get into maybe some more details on that when we get to the main topic. But
Sure.
To move us along a little bit, a couple of shout outs real quickly. Over on our YouTube, I want to shout out Snake Jazz, who made a joke about Japanese detective teen heartthrob name calculator. This is in response to our Emio the Smiling Man episode, where you have to name the character, and they say to take the first or last 3 letters from your last name and add them to the beginning of one of your favorite anime protagonists to make your name in the game. And they also said congrats on 500 subscribers, and also Viking Lord Sean also said it's crime that you just hit 500, to be honest. And the podcast is one of the best Nintendo casts. Thank you both for that. We really do appreciate everyone hopping over to the YouTube and seeing the video version and hitting like and subscribe. We really appreciate it when folks leave a review on Apple or post somewhere online to share the podcast. We have a Patreon where you can financially support the podcast. And we have a Discord where there was also good discussion about this episode. And that brings me to a little bit of sad news that we wanted to share with the community. Unfortunately, a member of our Discord community who's, tight-knit place, Ivy, has passed away. It just came to our attention that she passed away this past week. And we just wanted to share that. Ivy's been a guest on the show a couple of times and was just one of the kindest people, honestly, I've ever known. So I don't know what else to say. We're going to be doing more to honor her soon.
Yeah, we definitely will be, next this weekend is the final Splatfest for Splatoon 3. And I know, Ivy was a huge fan of that game, and so many of the hours that I got to spend with Ivy were playing that game, and so I know this weekend I'm very much looking forward to spending time with a lot of people in the community playing the game that Ivy loves so much, and sharing stories and sharing memories. And I'm sure next week as well, we'll be going a lot deeper into this. But yeah, to echo what you said, Patrick, you actually said this earlier today when we were talking about it, but we'd like to think that we've got a very non-toxic community. Gamers can be pretty intense people, and I feel really blessed to have such a wonderful community, and Ivy was kind of the epitome of that. And we're gonna miss her so much, and love her very much, and we're gonna be thinking about her all the time. So much love to Ivy, and anyone who has known her will probably feel the same.
An awkward transition. It just feels weird, but we're gonna move on to to the news. I cut this however.
It's what she would have wanted.
Yeah, it is. She, yes, very positive person, wants us to be happy and celebrate, but it's obvious to be sad and okay and normal. But we're gonna move on and talk about the news and rumors for the week. So first up is a little bit of an update on Zephyr's Pass, which we had the developer for that game on a handful of weeks ago. And that is a original Game Boy Color game coming out on cartridge. But unfortunately, the game has been delayed a little bit until later this month due to, I think this is ultimately a good thing, right? Catching a bug that they are going to reflash the carts. It's good that they caught this before the game shipped out, because that would have been a lot more of a headache and hassle and all that sort of thing. But I also know for Aaron, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago, that also must be very stressful. Yeah.
Good news is the game, especially if you get the digital version, is patched and done, and is extremely fun to play. And I'm super glad that they caught that issue early before the shipments went out. And also, just from talking to him post release, it seems like the game is selling very, very well. They've been selling through a lot of their physical copies that they've been sending out. So that's really exciting to see.
And then we're going to move on to some news about Nintendo apparently had a little bit of a preview event in New York for press and insiders and that sort of thing. We're going to talk first about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. So that game was actually shown off at PAX as well. But a lot of press outlets got their hands on this game and have detailed previews that they are sharing online, which I guess this is a little bit of a heads up if you really want to avoid spoilers, because I was glancing at some of these and there's a lot of details in these previews that I know that one of the sentiments I'm hearing a lot about this game is I want to play it. I don't really need to know anything else.
I've been hearing a lot of people saying that. And then they're like gluttons and addicts and they just like go to the YouTube page anyway. And they're like, what am I doing?
That's exactly where I'm at. Like, I just get my hands on it. That's why I did not look at any of the previews. And now I effectively will have my blinders on for the next couple weeks until this finally comes out, because I am so stoked. But yeah, I mean, don't tell me anymore, man. I don't know. It's so much of our society, we like ruin everything beforehand. Trailers show the best parts of the movies. I don't know. I was just like, let me just play it. Let me just have some pure joy for once. But yeah, I'm stoked for this game. That's really cool. But it does see overall the previews are pretty positive from what I glanced. Did anyone read any more about the previews?
Yeah, I did read some of it and I regretted it. Because I found out a few things that I wasn't aware of, and I didn't really need to know because of what we were just discussing. But it does seem very positive overall for this game.
Yeah, what excites me most about this is hearing like the concept of the game. It's a game where you play as Zelda, especially this year when we got the Princess Peach game that was like very, very easy. I was like a little worried in this game where it's like, oh, you can kind of solve puzzles any way you want, that it would be kind of a cakewalk, But from the thing that's really encouraging to me that I'm hearing right now from people who had these like 90-minute or 80-minute hands-on previews was that they were like, this game is hard, and it's like when you bring in all your like top-down Zelda knowledge with you, it's not going to help you, because you have to get creative. You have to like attack things in different ways. I was hearing a lot of people saying that they were dying a lot to like easy enemies at the beginning because you can't just like fight. You can't just swing your sword like you normally do. You have to like figure out different ways in order, especially with combat, in order to solve problems. And so that's really exciting to me. It sounds like this game is going to be really complex and quite lengthy. So I'm super pumped about that. Zach, have you been following this game at all? Is this something that interests you coming out to the Switch?
Yeah, that was actually one of the lists. That was on my list of games to avoid being released near. It's the Zelda game. So yeah, I was either gonna do it early September or on my birthday, which is August 21st. But I decided for September. But anyways, I love Nintendo games. And I've wanted to play as like Zelda in like a mainline game for a long time. So and the mechanic where I haven't seen too much about the game. I really just saw the launch or the release announcement trailer where you could like grab any item in the game and use it anywhere. I thought that was really cool. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too. The indie devs I feel really bad for right now are the developers of Ruffy and the Riverside. Have you seen that game at all? It looks great, and the game is going to be great regardless. But they've been showing off this game in development for a really long time, and it's a game where you like copy and paste things in the world. And I'm like, oh no, man. That's Nintendo's coming out and like beating them to market on this like copy and paste mechanic. But anyway, Ruffy and the Riverside is going to be fine. It's got a really beautiful like 2D character in a 3D world aesthetic. That game, I'm going to be playing that game regardless. I'm super excited for that one, but I'm super pumped and I'm really excited to see like what you can do creatively in this game.
Also at this event in New York, were hands-on previews of Mario Party Jamboree for the press. And again, just like The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, I was staying away from too much detail, but I did skim some of these and they're out there. And kind of surprised by the positivity on some level. I don't know what to say. There's a lot of Mario parties and so you never know. And it's just a hands-on preview, so they may have seen the best there is, but it sounds pretty positive.
It does feel a little bit like Mario parties are a dime a dozen just because there are so many of them. But I mean, I don't know. This one just seems like really big and has, what is it, like 112 mini games or something like that, so it's a fuck ton of mini games. And seems like they're kind of going back to the motion stuff and using the Joy-Cons. And I think that I really liked Mario Party Superstars because it was kind of like a best of. But this is, it's great to have a game where you can actually use your Joy-Cons, So I'll definitely pick this one up. It looks really fun.
Yeah. So for both of these sort of preview things, if you're interested, there's a lot of info out there, and you can go find it.
I'm less worried about being spoiled on a Mario Party game. I'll tell you that.
That's fair. Me too. But it's all this is out there if you're interested in hearing a little more detail and just continuing this train of sort of upcoming Nintendo games. Nintendo put out a new trailer for Mario and Luigi Brothership, and Jordan, I don't want to steal your thunder, but this is kind of a short trailer. But what do you have to say about it, since this is sort of your domain?
Yeah, dude, first of all, so weird for them to just release a 30-second trailer for this. Felt very bizarre, but it's kind of like presented in like a postcard style, which is really nice. Like, greetings from Concordia. I'm not really keeping track of like when they announce everything, but so I don't know if that's the first time they've announced the world name, but as a huge Mario and Luigi fan, like I was really worried when I first saw the announcement for the game that it wasn't going to feel like the other games, or they were going to try to take it in a different direction, kind of like Paper Mario went. But after watching this trailer, like it just looks right. Like it looks like the Alpha Dream series updated down to like the graphical style. There's like how you traverse the world. Usually in the older games, like the brothers have certain attacks or certain abilities that help them navigate the world that you're in. And this one, you see them like form like a UFO that glides over things. And I was like, oh, dude. And like already in the previous trailers, you see the numbers pop up. Like it's more RPG focused. I'm like, dude, this is just all looking correct and had me like even more excited. But yeah, man, never thought I'd see another one. I thought once Alpha Dream was dead, we'd never get another one in this series. So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this kind of focuses on the overworld sort of and location and all that. And it definitely looks like interesting. But they don't really give us a lot of details, but that's fine. Unless there's anything else, we'll move on to just kind of talking a little bit about the next Nintendo console rumors, which are swirling big time right now in light of that whole August partner direct. And there's a lot of people saying that we're going to hear some sort of announcement this month that just seems to be in the zeitgeist right now. But in particular, one thing that we wanted to mention is, these people have been poring over manufacturing details to try to figure this stuff out. And there's somebody who, David Gibson is the person's name on Twitter, that said that they noticed that a manufacturer, Hoseiden, I don't know if that's how you say it, is a Nintendo assembler, and that they're spending a lot of money on production equipment the end of this year and the beginning of next year. And so everybody is expecting this news soon. I don't know. What do y'all, anything I missed or anything y'all want to add to that?
I want to believe, man. Fucking come on, dog. Like, let's go. Where is this thing? It's been so goddamn long. But, I've been hurt before, It was the Switch successor was definitely coming out in 2022. And here we are in 2024. And we're like, maybe it'll be announced this month, So, obviously it makes sense for it to come out this month. We talked about this during the Indie World and Partner Showcase, like that came out a little earlier to take the place of a normal September Direct and all that kind of stuff. I think it makes sense with Tokyo Game Show coming up for them to get an announcement out before that showcase, so that people that are actually working on games can announce that it's coming out for that upcoming system. So I hope that that's true, but I can't let myself get too hyped up about this because I've been hurt before. Zach, you're a game dev. Obviously, you've got Switch 2 development kits, I imagine, right now, working for the new system.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Yeah. This new system, does it excite you? What are your thoughts on this?
I'm worried. It seems like every other Nintendo console doesn't do well. So the Switch did really well. So the Switch 2, I'm just curious what it'll be like. Like maybe it'll be like a Steam Deck. I don't know.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
cool.
I hope games that work on the Switch will also work on the Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're pulling for a Super Switch over here for the name.
Super Switch? I like that.
The Super Nintendo Switch. Yeah, I think it'd be really nice.
Yeah, and also pull it for backwards compatibility. That would be sweet. But if there is news coming this month, we don't have that long to wait. We'll find out, and if there's not, we'll find out that by no news. So we'll continue to talk about that, I'm sure, every week until something happens. But we can move on to a little bit of non-Nintendo stuff here to close us out. First up, there was a trailer for a Minecraft movie. So
Wonderful title.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, I watched it and I was like, okay. Yeah, it's happening. I actually like Minecraft. I play Minecraft a lot and I play it with my son. And the thing I that stood out to me is I was like, there's piglins in the overworld. That's weird. And I told that to my son and he was like, oh, I bet you what they're doing is they're just borrowing from Minecraft Legends, which I have never played and don't really know much about. But apparently that is the story of Minecraft Legends.
Wow.
So
some insider info from
nice.
your son
or
over
anybody
here.
that's played Minecraft Legends, which is probably a lot of folks. So it was interesting to hear that because I was like, oh, then that makes sense. That's the more narrative game or one of the, you know what I mean? And they're gonna do that. But also just seeing Jack Black and I don't know what to say about it. It was short and weird.
Jack Black is the king of video game movies in our day and age. I think it was also interesting to learn. I think it was Cool Uncle Vince in the Discord was pointing out that Jared Hess is the director of this movie, the director of Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite. And
weird.
Yeah, that was my exact reaction. I was like, that's really a bizarre choice. Also because I mean, not that he fell off, but he hadn't really done a huge studio movie in a long time. And the last thing I saw by him was so out of left field. It was a documentary about a Mormon document forger who went to prison. And that was the last thing I ever saw him do. And I was like, that's so out of left field for him. He's like, you know what I'm going to do now? A Minecraft movie, not the Minecraft movie.
Minecraft saw that documentary and they're like, this is our guy, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a Warner Brothers picture. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. I'm not going to lie. This movie does not look good to me from the trailer that I saw, but I also have to recognize like this movie is not for me. So who cares what I think, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't, super pleased with the trailer, but I also don't care, it's fine. I do think it's funny that Jack Black now plays two characters from Super Smash Brothers, Bowser and Steve. So that's funny. I don't know. Yeah, it just kind of looked like someone, as soon as someone brought up that it looked like a Super Bowl commercial, the trailer, that's like all I could see with the like visuals. It just looked like a car commercial you see at the Super Bowl. It was just a teaser. I'm sure we'll get more stuff soon. You actually telling me that it's the guy who directed Napoleon Dynamite gets me a little bit more excited for this movie because his shit is really idiosyncratic and strange and kind of a little off the beaten path. And so I think that's a good vibe for this kind of film. We'll just have to see how it goes. Do you play Minecraft, Zach?
I love Minecraft. Yeah, when I was like younger, my favorite thing was to play the redstone to like make like contraptions and stuff.
Yeah.
That was like back when I was still just learning how to program and stuff. So
that's a good gateway into programming. Yeah.
Yeah. My first real gateway into programming was Little Big Planet 2.
Yep.
So, had this weird like visual programming language. It was actually pretty cool. Yeah. Anyways, in like high school, my friends and I would play Minecraft, and it always kind of turned into like a social test. But it would just get messed up. Like a bunch of high school boys all in a Minecraft map. Things got crazy.
Yeah.
That's like the first thing I always think of is when people mention Minecraft is like that Lord of the Flies situation that came about.
Yeah, I wonder if there'll be a scene in the Minecraft movie where they make a working calculator.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, I love that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, we're going to move on to what is kind of a little PlayStation news corner. We're a Switch podcast, but there's a lot to talk about this week going on over at PlayStation. First up is that the game Concord has been taken down.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So Concord came out not too long ago. I think it was 3-ish or so weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks before this. But they pulled the game offline on September 6th, and they sent out refunds to everybody who bought the game. So as we all kind of discussed when leading up to this, it kind of seemed like nobody was interested in this game. And I think I don't know if we talked about this, but when it launched, it didn't have very many concurrent players and that sort of thing. So the writing was on the wall, and they have, within such a short amount of time, taken down a game that took them, the reports are 8+ years to make.
Yeah, it basically, development on Concord started when Overwatch came out,
Yep.
So it's like, it very much felt like it was, oh shit, we need to scramble developers together to make a team-based shooter like this, right? And this was very much like, here we are chasing the live service dragon. And I feel awful for the developers of this game and everybody at that studio. I know Sony bought this studio specifically because they were developing this game and they wanted this to be a big first-party PlayStation game. This is going to be an episode in that there's a Concord episode in that anthology gaming TV show that's coming out still, so I'm sure Sony is in some way trying to scrounge out what they can do with this. I think it seems like maybe the plan is to strip the live serviceness away from this game and maybe re-release it as kind of a more contained like multiplayer game. I think people might actually be more willing to give it a chance if it's like that, but either way, man, working for 8 years of your life on a project only to have it like pulled right away is very upsetting. And I hope everybody there like lands on their feet and Sony's going to look out for them because this is Sony's fault, not their fault. Yeah. And just hopefully this is a sign of the end of this ridiculous live service fad. I mean, it's not like those games can't be successful, but it's just, Sony put forth, we're putting out 9 live service games and we'll be doling them out and it's not working. And I hope they abandon that idea because this is just going to continue happening. I fear.
Well, we'll get to that in just a second because we have something to discuss related to that. But sort of, I found it really fascinating what's been going on at Sony because the contrast here between that game coming out and the reception and then Astro Bot, the other big Sony game that just came out, which is a single player 3D platformer game, getting incredible reviews from users and press. It's sitting on Metacritic at 94 right now, which is really high.
I think it's the highest rated game of the year so far as reviews go.
And the user score is 9.5 on Metacritic, which, we always talk about that doesn't mean as much maybe, but just kind of weird. And like, hopefully, like you said, David, a little bit of an aha moment that chasing trends and making live service games versus pouring love into something. I don't know. You say it. You already said it a little bit, and I could probably say it better than me, but weird to see these two contrasted, right?
Has anybody here played Astro Bot?
I
No,
have
man.
not.
Fuck me either. I don't have a PS5, and it says a lot about me that Sony releases basically a Nintendo game, and I'm like, oh, I got to go get a PS5. I literally almost impulse bought a PS5 the other day. I like found a guy on Craigslist who was selling it for $350, and I was gonna go pick it up, and then he just like ghosted me, and I was like, you know what, that's probably for the best. I didn't really need a PS5 right now. I was just like caught up in the hype. But no, I mean, this looks incredible, and yeah, like you said, the contrast is crazy that they're coming out at the same time. I do, everybody's talking about like, why aren't there more games like this? And I think there are a lot of games like this right now. Just a lot of them are being made by Nintendo and they're being made by indie devs right now. Like, I think we're in a very, I mean, obviously we're going to be talking about your 2D platformer here very soon, Zach, but beyond that, we're in like kind of a 3D platformer like renaissance right now. I think there's a lot of amazing 3D platformers coming out just in the past like 2 or 3 years alone. And I know there's a ton on the horizon that I'm really excited for. So to see Sony put AAA money behind something like this, not as much as something like Concord. I'm sure this costs a fraction of the budget because it was a much smaller team that made this. But to see them put their whole heart behind it and then it really pay off like this, I hope this sends the right message to not only just Sony, but to all AAA publishers.
Yeah.
It's almost like you could take your budget for Concord, and if you split it between 5 teams and made 5 smaller games, you probably would have 5 more moderately bigger hits and ultimately make the more money. So, I mean, I feel like that's the at the end of the day, I hope that that's the message they get. But as we know, corporations are very famously smart at following trends. I don't know. I'm just like, this is just the duality.
Yeah. In 8 years from now, there will be a bunch of 3D platformers coming out right when everybody's done with the genre. And they took the wrong lesson from this.
Well, one of the other little bits of Sony PlayStation news that came out this week is they put out a new trailer for another live service game that they're making called Fair Games. And to your point, David, they still allegedly have 12 live service games planned, is what some news outlets I was reading are reporting. But they put out this CGI trailer for this game called Fair Games, which was already announced, I think, earlier this year. Or maybe
I'm remembering
it
now that I'm looking at the trailer. Yeah.
It sort of looks like a heist team shooter. I don't play these type of games, but like maybe like Payday, is that the name of the game that was pretty big?
I think this looks closer to recently the game The Finals came out.
Right.
Yeah, it looks very similar to The Finals, mixed with more like hero shooter elements. Gotta be honest, this game looks fine. But again, I don't even know what this game looks like because it's just a cinematic trailer and it doesn't get me excited to play this game when I already know there is Payday and The Finals, which are both much cheaper. This is probably going to be a $70 game with a battle pass added on top for cosmetics. And I just stop. Who cares? I don't know. I feel bad for the industry at large. Like the devs are basically just getting forced to make these games that they know are probably not going to be successful or make money, even if they want them to be, and they put a lot of very hard work into it. But it's like the writing's been on the wall since Anthem, really. Like, it's just not going to work. It just doesn't work anymore. It's like people are already in their Fortnite ecosystem. I'm stuck in the Apex Legends ecosystem. I'm trying to play Deadlock, but I'm like, I don't want to learn another meta. My brain is too full. I'm too old to learn this bullshit anymore. I'm so sick of every studio, every major place being like, we got to have our live service cash cow. And it's just like, dude, you're just wasting money that could be spent on other shit.
You said it. Perfect. Well, real briefly then to close out this PlayStation stuff, we don't even really need to talk about this a lot, but there's a technical presentation that they have announced that's going to happen before the release of this episode, but they announced it, but after we record, but before we release. So everybody thinks it's going to be a PlayStation 5 Pro that they're announcing because it sounds like it's some piece of hardware, and that makes the most sense. Does anybody want to
Vita 2? Maybe it's the Vita 2? Vita means life. I would take a Vita 2. But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a PS5 Pro. And I hope it is, so that they drive the price of the original PS5 down and I can go get Astro Bot without breaking the bank.
I can finally play Demon Souls, the remaster.
Yeah.
For the PS5, they have 2 games for me now. It's the Demon Souls and Astro Bot.
There you go. You got 2 now.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like I'm like you, Zach. I mean, the PS3 and the PS4, I both bought like super late in their lifespans off of people on Craigslist. It's like, I'm not trying to be a Sony hater. I like Sony. I think they make a lot of really good games. It's just like, I just, for some reason, always get in like at the very end of the life cycle. And, especially now that they're releasing so much stuff. I have a Steam Deck. I love my Steam Deck. It's where I've been playing Garbanzo Quest. But it's like on there, it's like they're releasing a lot of stuff on Steam and on PC. And it's like, it's been a lot easier this generation for me to just continue to hold off, right?
I'm kind of over consoles, aside from the Nintendo, because the Nintendo games are on there.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
The 1-2 punch of a Switch and a Steam Deck is like really the way to go, I think. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our news segment. And we're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking with Zachary all about his game, Garbanzo Quest. We are back. And this week, we are talking with Zachary Gardner, the developer of Garbanzo Quest, and video watchers can see one of the stars of Garbanzo Quest on the screen right now.
He's got an itch.
We got Frankie the dog.
So Zachary, often when we interview somebody, we like to just have you introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about your background related to game development, and maybe a little bit the elevator pitch for your game.
Oh, sure. Yeah. My name's Zachary. I just finished my first real video game, Garbanzo Quest, after 3 years of solo development. It draws very much from the games I played, when I was a little kid. Primarily like Super Mario World, that's like a really formative video game for me. It's really special to me. And and that's like very clear in the game. And that was on purpose. Like, it's very much kind of like a love letter to that game. But, it also does a lot of its own experimentation. You also asked about like kind of how I got.
Yeah. How did you get from no knowledge of making a game to a released game? Or like, did you do some game jams, or did you?
I did lots of game jams. Yeah. I made like 5 or 6 Ludum Dare games. And then I made like a Pico 8 game in like 2 weeks. But aside from that, when I started working on Garbanzo Quest, I didn't think I was going to be working on it for 3 years. At first it was just a project I would work on in my free time, because I had a full-time web development job working for a hospital. That was actually during COVID too, so it was like extra crazy. Eventually, like, I just wanted to do something that was a little more fun and lighthearted. I guess it's kind of funny to think that like game dev's easier, because when it's like still like incredibly difficult. It's like one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Especially by yourself, which
Yeah.
I think we should mention, or I'd like to ask, because I know undoubtedly there is this sort of myth of a solo developer, right? Because you probably had playtesters or whatever, but like, it seems like you are more on the side of a solo developer. You did the art and the music, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much everything.
That's pretty amazing. The music is awesome. I assumed that someone else had written it just because I was like, dang, you did all this? That's amazing.
Bangers.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I love, I settled on game development because I thought it was something like that my skill set was good for and something I could succeed in. But if I could just really just pick what I wanted to do, I think I'd rather be like a musician, like in a band or something, like write music. But, I love music just a little bit more than like video games. I'm very happy making video games. And, I just love learning stuff. And I think that's why like solo dev was practical for me. It's also like, I don't have any money to pay people. So like, maybe if I make enough money, I can get some friends together and, maybe not do everything by myself.
Hire out the parts that you like less. But
sure. Even though I'd say I'm a solo dev, I still had a lot of help with like play testing and stuff. Like that's super important. Yeah, the game wouldn't be what it is without like all the help I've gotten. So
absolutely. One of the things that I was impressed by and wanted to hear a little bit more about that David told me is that you did not use Unity or Godot or Unreal or something like that or Game Maker or whatever. You did not use a existing engine. Can you elaborate on that decision and the tools that you used to develop Garbanzo?
So when I was first learning how to program, I used the Unity engine. That's kind of what got me into the C# programming language. And I used that for a long time. A lot of my game jam games use the Unity engine. But just over time, I think it just got worse, especially after it went public. That was like a really good learning experience for me because I don't know, I just saw like the kind of like the profit motive, take this like really cool thing and just kind of like fuck it up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that really turned me away from like closed source stuff. I never wanted to invest all my time and energy into something that could just get like, messed up. So I got really into open source. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I found the monogame framework, and it's open source, and I made my own engine with it, which is, it was extra work, but doing it for like a 2D game isn't like that crazy.
Because it seems like so much of the development process would be building the engine at that point, right? Like, was that your experience, or was it kind of like, I guess, like as you're building the game, are you finding like, oh, hey, I need, or you come up with maybe a mechanic and you're like, I want to build this into this framework for the game? Or is it something that you kind of like did all in the front end, like building it up at the beginning, and then that led your game design decisions? I guess I'm wondering like what the order of operations is.
Oh, sure. So the game and the engine are very much like one thing. Like it wouldn't be easy to just like make a new game with the engine. Like it's very much Garbanzo Quest. And one of the strengths of making my own engine is that it's really easy to just do whatever I want, even though maybe it took a little longer. But I think it was a really good learning experience. I really leveled up as a programmer. I don't know if I would do it again. I might, I'm really looking at Godot for my next project. I think it's grown up a lot since I started.
I had a quick question, like go back just a little bit. So since
Sure.
you did all the music yourself as well, what program were you using to record in, and what kind of instruments were you playing? Were you using all keyboard? Is it all like MIDI? What are you using?
So I use a chiptune tracker. There's no performing. It's all, I'm like programming the notes in one by one. But that is also another I use Milky Tracker, which is open source. I kind of made my own branch of it just to suit my needs a little better. So that's another really cool thing about open source. If there's something you don't like about what you're using, you can fix it. So all the sounds in the game you hear, 99% of them are just simple sound waves that, I programmed to sound a certain way, like square waves, sine waves, triangle waves. The other 1% is Frankie, when he barks, that's his real bark.
Very good.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
I thought it sounded a little too good. I was like, what?
Yeah. That's real.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, characters in the game, and a lot of like friends that you can unlock as you go, which I think is really great. And they kind of all have their own like personalities and their own like individual sounds.
They each have their own sound. It's funny. I spend like 60 seconds making the talk sound they make. So there's a lot.
Well, you've got so many. It's like you can't, like labor over each one, But it's really effective, right? It's like, I think we should talk a little bit about the actual gameplay of the game here in a second as well. But it's like, as you're like beating levels, you'll unlock characters. Sometimes you'll get multiple characters or whatever, and then they kind of show up in your house, right? And I love that. I don't know. They just all feel so memorable and like a part of the world, even though they might just be there at the end of the level, and you just kind of run into them and they say, whatever their dialogue is. Yeah, exactly. Right. But it's but it really fleshes out the world a lot, and it makes it like feel really alive. And I don't know, it just reminds me so much, as I was playing it, I was streaming it the other night. It was like so much of the game really felt like you captured the kind of essence of what gaming was like in the 90s, and it's not just like, oh, this game is pixel art. Oh, this game has chiptunes or whatever, it's like the game, like design and like the pathos and like the, you know what I mean? It's like just the kind of all these like little details. It's so clear, like you said at the top, like where you draw your inspiration from, you wear it on your sleeve. Like the overworld is basically just the Super Mario World overworld, right? Like as I'm playing through, I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's Dinosaur Island and there's all these other, you know what I mean? But it's obviously got its own little spin on it and stuff. And but I think like something that I'm really fascinated with indie game devs a lot, and we've had a lot of devs on the show who are making games that, like are kind of like spiritual successors to games that Nintendo doesn't make anymore or whatever. We had the Aero GPX developer on, and his game's amazing. But I just love the freedom that indies have so often to just put out their own thing, but also like take a lot of inspiration. I guess like when you're developing, like, is that something that you're actively thinking about? Like kind of the balance between like inspiration from other games and then innovating something new, or like where does that process like start for you? Or is that even something that you're thinking about?
I think it's more just natural. Like I'm not like thinking like, oh, I'm gonna steal this thing, I'm gonna steal that. It's when I first started the game, I wasn't like, I'm gonna make this kind of game and it's gonna take this long. It's just, I was just having fun with it. It was very like an artistic process. And I guess if you wanted to put like a thesis statement on the game, it would be a game. I wanted to make a game for people like me. And so it naturally just drew from a lot of my favorite games, Super Mario World and, stuff like that. But yeah, there's some more like on purpose, like homages in the game. Cause like, it's mostly just like a very loose artistic process for me.
I definitely did catch the genie balloons from the Super Nintendo Aladdin. I don't know if you intentionally were paying homage to that. Oh, maybe.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. If so, I loved it so much. Like it's honestly one of the things that I played, because I played the Super Nintendo Aladdin like so many times. The like balloons you jumped on really reminded me of those from that game, and it's kind of like I got really locked in at that point.
Cool.
I was very excited to see it.
Happy for you.
Yeah. Me too.
This is a fun game. Is the rescuing characters at the end an homage to Sonic at all? Like something about the box and breaking it and then something popping out kind of felt a little Sonic like to me.
So that was to solve a problem that I had, because
Nice.
I really wanted to another one of my influences was like Undertale, and I really wanted to, I was trying to reconcile like, how do I have this like action game but also have like dialogue? So I kind of came up with this idea that like there would be these sequences where you would be used to experiencing dialogue, so it wouldn't be like, it would like right in the middle of the action someone would start talking to you. So since like there's a friend at the end of every level, you kind of have that in your head, like, oh, now I'm going to talk to somebody. It's not like jarring. But yeah.
Quite enjoyable, actually. I love love the line. Like it's always several of them make me laugh out loud.
Yeah, they're all like half of them is like temp dialogue that I just never changed. It's pretty funny.
That's the way.
A lot of them are like a little despondent. They're like, "Oh, I could have done that." Yeah, thanks a lot, I guess.
Yeah,
like, man, all right, Dick. Yeah,
that they're not very friendly.
Yeah, I feel like there's like this whole game has like a positive cynicism is kind of what I was thinking of, because it's like, yeah, they kind of say some shit, but they're also like ultimately like glad you freed them, but then also the game's like so bright and colorful. But it's just like this weird mix of tones that I really enjoyed.
Good.
To David's point a minute ago, we really should talk about the mechanics, because we haven't really explained the game. I think it's a really interesting mix playing through it of platforming with kind of, I don't know, how do you describe it actually, Zachary? What is your how would you say the gameplay is?
I'm always working on my pitch, but I think I've settled on it's a bullet heck pixel art platformer. That was something someone recommended to me on Twitter. It's like, it's not a bullet hell, it's a bullet heck. I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's really cute.
Yeah, because I don't like bullet hell games, and but I like this game a lot. Like I think
it's not too crazy, but I think it definitely has that in there. Yeah,
it's got that run and gun aspect, but it's all around the platforming a little bit, which makes it work for me really well. I mean, somebody else might like a different kind of game, but because the bullets affect some platforms that, you have to shoot some platforms to move forward, and or enemies can destroy platforms you might depend on. It's really an interesting mechanic mix, I think, that maybe there's other games like it, but I've not experienced a lot of, or any. So it's cool.
Yeah, it really does. Because we talked a little bit about like the influences and kind of the references and stuff like that you have in the game, and I like that you wear that on your sleeve. But it really feels very fresh, and I think it's because I love 2D platformers. Like I play a lot of them, and I've never played one that really feels quite like this. And I think there's a lot of little things like as you're shooting, and we should say the projectiles in this game that you're shooting are your spit. You're like spitting on enemies. Big fan of that. I'm also a big Binding of Isaac fan. So like anytime you're sending body fluid out.
That. I was channeling that, I think.
Yeah, totally. But it's spit is wonderful. And then when it's dog slobber, that's even better. But, I've played a lot of games where you run and shoot and run and jump and whatever. But it's like, there's like little things about how this game plays that like just really set it apart from other things. I think the fact that your projectiles go through walls and not only your own projectiles, but the projectiles of enemies. I was like, wow, okay. I don't know that I've ever really played a game like that before. And it had kind of made me had to retrain my brain a little bit as I was playing. So I was expecting something else. And then, the enemies, when you defeat them, they kind of just only defeated for a little bit and they come right back. And so that kind of adds to a little bit of the bullet hell, right? Because you have to kind of pick and choose what it is you're actually going to be fighting, or if you want to just blast through the level and just try to avoid everybody. It kind of like favors a bunch of different kinds of gameplay. I just found that really refreshing. I don't know that I have a question. I just like that. Good job, I guess.
I can elaborate on why I did that. That was another like Undertale influence. I was trying to make like the game a little more less violent, I guess. I mean, everything's trying to kill Garbanzo, but Garbanzo is like not trying to kill anyone else. Like they're just trying to like get through. So yeah, that's why, when you spit on your enemies, they don't die. They just kind of like get stunned for a moment. So I think that was the idea there.
The other side effect of it too is like I constantly felt like I was being pushed through the level without the level auto scrolling. It was like, no, you need to keep moving forward because this enemy's going to come back or this enemy's chasing you. That's another thing that I feel like we should mention is there's enemies that will follow you through the levels as well, which felt very like the angry sun in Super Mario.
That's my favorite.
I love that. But there's the one in the second world that I really liked and hated because he would just fucking follow me is the Candy Cane Man or Mr. Candy Cane. I'm so sorry.
Candy Cane.
Mr. Candy Cane. I was like, Mr. Candy Cane loves you. And I was like, I do not love Mr. Candy Cane. Get away from me.
And it also gives me a little bit of Super Mario Bros. 2 vibes with, I can't think of the name of the mask.
Yeah.
More, I don't know. It's got
a name.
I
don't remember their name. But I know what you're talking about.
The some of the enemies that chase you. But it's funny. I think aesthetically, like there's a lot going on with your game and it's all very interesting to me. Like I showed the trailer to my wife and she said this and I agreed in the most like complimentary way. She's like, this is just and look inside somebody's brain. And I'm like, well, yeah, and I'm going to talk to that person later today. But it's like, I love how random it is that Mr. Candy Cane is chasing, and all these characters you unlock. And I think there's something about that that's really, as I think Jordan said, and David kind of hinted at too, with some of them are like upset and mean or whatever, but it all feels happy. It's this weird mix, and you did a really good job with that, I think.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's another thing that makes it feel retro too, because like back in, look at something like Donkey Kong. It's like there's a monkey throwing barrels and there's no story and it's just kind of random, and you got to pick up like an umbrella and shit. And it's just like just a bunch of like random shit everywhere that it's like they just or like early days of 3D renders, they would just like render whatever they wanted and then throw it in the level somewhere and just be like, it's just a wacky world, and I just think that like really gives that vibe in a really cool way.
Totally.
You also have like other mechanics in there with swimming and water levels. And I know people, I just wanted to ask you about this because I know people hate water levels sometimes. Did you want to, your water levels are not hateable in my opinion.
Yeah. That was the goal.
I wanted to ask you about it.
Water levels. Yeah.
Cause they feel interesting and different, but not like frustrating, which some water levels do. And I think the movement in the water feels really good compared to, and so did you spend a lot of time on that, or did you think like we're just gonna keep the water simple?
Yeah, as soon as I was like, okay, I'm gonna add water now, I was like, how do I make this not something people will complain about? So what I settled on was like, it's just a really simple change. Is when you're in the water, you're pretty much just changing from your left to right movement to all directions movement. and that kind of plays into the bullet hell, even in like Undertale. That was kind of like the main gameplay. So you're the little heart and you're trying not to get hit by the bullets. So that's kind of like what I was trying to evoke.
Yeah. None of your abilities are nerfed. You can still shoot. You can still do everything. You can still hold the R button to lock in the direction you're going, which pro tip, do that all the time.
Yeah. People don't do that enough, I noticed.
It's definitely, but it feels really good. It's like once you get it down, it feels like very natural. But anyway, that's beside the point. But yeah, no, I really enjoy that. And you've kind of got this kind of excavation mechanic as well.
Right.
It feels like so much of the game is kind of like digging your way through things and sort of almost making your own platforms as you go a little bit. And I was really happy to see that in the underwater stuff that all remains as well. Right. It's a really cool mechanic.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun coming up with that. And it's like really simple. It's just like, destroying a tile. And that's just kind of like one of those things that came up during experimentation. Maybe I'd say I was drawing from like Shovel Knight, because I think Shovel Knight does that. Or there's that one level in Super Mario World where it's that just downwards tunnel of all the yellow blocks they have to get through.
Yep.
I think that's another thing I was drawing from.
That's also one thing I wanted to ask you about, and we hinted at this a little bit earlier. I'm sorry, with the question about like were you consciously doing this or that? But I'm curious, like how the mechanics evolved. Did the shooting happen when you were just messing around right away, or did you start with shooting and then come across the sort of modified platforming, or are you even able to remember? Like
3 years ago. What I remember is I drew this like stupid little sprite, and I was like, okay, how does he attack people? He's got no arms and he's like big lips. So I was like, oh, he spits on them. That makes sense. And then it just kind of never went away. So it's funny to mention now, like Garbanzo was always supposed to just be this temporary character till I thought of something better. But it's funny, this thing I drew in like a minute and that didn't really give it much thought is like what stuck. There was a point where I tried to change them and like people were upset, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm stuck with this.
Yeah, that makes sense. People are resistant to change.
I think they were right. I like I'm really attached to that Garbanzo character now.
There's something to that, it's like you get this like little spark of something and it might not even seem like a big deal at the time. Patrick and I did a lot of improv comedy, and I feel like that's like a similar thing. It's like anytime I try to like sit down and like write something out, I'm like, it's the worst piece of shit ever, and I put it all away. But it's like you come up with some stupid bullshit on the spot, and you're like, oh, this is great.
Why does it work out that way? Like,
exactly.
I feel like there's something pure about like just an idea and just throwing it out. I was literally talking about this yesterday because it's just, there's something so instinctual, like when you're an artist and you're like creating something and you don't think about it too hard. And this happens all the time where people are like, I didn't even think this was going to be my hit song. Like the reason I was thinking about it was Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails. He was like, I didn't even want to put this on the album. And someone was like, no, that's it. He's like, I didn't even work on this song very long at all. I hate it. And that was like the biggest hit from the album. And it's like, sometimes there's like something so pure about just focusing on like one little thing for one little bit. And then just, that's it. It's because it's just a pure personification or a pure artifact of your brain.
I get you. Yeah.
Can I ask a little bit? I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about your experience doing early access. Because I know the game now is out, the 1.0, like is fully released now. But congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I didn't play it in early access. I only played it after it was out. And
that's fair. I usually don't play early access games.
Right?
So.
But I'm curious, like how that process was for you, and then maybe also we could use this opportunity to talk a little bit about like marketing the game and kind of just like what that experience was like, kind of working with the community as you were like slowly releasing this game over time.
So. Can you hear my doggy snoring?
Well, we'll see in the edit.
Anyways, Yeah, early access. That's something I decided pretty early on. I really wanted to get that extra feedback because I've never done this before. So I don't know. It just seemed like a good idea to me. Pizza Tower, they didn't do Steam early access, but they did do early builds through their Patreon. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like they did it. Why don't I? But yeah, it's really since I did early access, there's all these old builds out that you can still go and play that I've like preserved. So it's really neat to see how far the game has come. Even just like 2 years ago, like it's totally looks way different.
Would you do early access on another project, or were there any downsides to doing it?
Yeah, I don't know if I would do it again. It would depend on the project. Yeah, I've come to understand that there's a bit of a stigma against early access, and I worry that it affected the launch of the game,
right?
Since it was an early access. But yeah, I don't know. It depends on the project.
Yeah, because I think it could go both ways, right? I totally see what you're saying, where it's like some of the oomph of the here it is, here's the release date and everything is lessened. But also I do think that early access gives you an opportunity for more word of mouth to spread for people that have been playing it. Like, did you find that was your experience at all? Like, were people excited about the game? Were they like talking to people about it? Or because I found you on Twitter. I think honestly, a lot of people shit on Twitter, and for good reason. It's become a hole of Nazi propaganda. But like for the most part, like I'm in like the gaming algo, right? And so I find a lot of really great like indie projects that way. And so I'm just wondering, like, how much of that do you think was people kind of like talking about it and boosting it?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there on like the shithole that Twitter is turned into. Yeah, it's kind of frustrating. That's like the only platform I've gotten traction on. So I'm kind of stuck there.
Now I feel bad for Brazilians right now.
Oh yeah. I feel like I had like a pretty good Brazilian following, so like it's kind of a bummer. Yeah, the release day, like the amount of like people sharing the game and stuff was like crazy. Like even with my older like early access releases, I never got that much like attention like ever. Yeah, it made me really happy to hear people be like, "Oh, I've been playing since like version 1.0.1." Like, so crazy how far the game has come in like 3 years.
Yeah, because you definitely hear I think early access is really weird. Like, I think you hear that Steam kind of punishes games in the algorithm for it a little bit, especially indie games, right? But you also, that's probably the games that should be doing early access, right? Like, because people with big budgets and, they could hire people to test their game and market their game and that sort of thing. And so it is a weird thing that there is a stigma about it. And I think it kind of sucks, especially for smaller people, but that's its own conversation, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if there's any other, there's a few things we have on this list. I don't know if there's anything else that y'all want to ask or mention.
I mean, what's up with all the beans, man? Do you like beans or what's?
I love beans.
Yeah. Legume fan.
Sure. I'm a vegetarian, so I eat a lot of beans.
Yeah, there you go.
My protein. But yeah, like I said, garbanzo is definitely just kind of like something I shout out without much thought. But like, maybe like it's because I love beans so much, it kind of came out that way.
Right. It wasn't like it affected people. Yeah. Even though you just didn't think about it much. It's like, no, that's good. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
It's also just like very fun to say, Garbanzo Quest. Like
I went through every bean like in the English language looking for the best bean name, and Garbanzo always won.
Yeah. It's very fun to say. And he just sounds like a little guy. Like
it's crazy how it all just kind of worked out. I didn't plan it.
That's really fantastic.
I don't know. We have this on the notes, so I'm going to mention it because it definitely struck me playing the game that you have levels, but it is also kind of screen based. And I think the first time I died, I was very pleased to feel that way, because I know in a level based game it can be really frustrating. Not that your levels are super long, because they're not, but they feel appropriate. But you also have a sort of screen based mechanic. Was that intentional, or was that always there, or did that change over time?
Yeah, I think pretty early on in development I had that screen by screen as soon as you get to the next screen, that's your checkpoint. Celeste was an influence there.
Yes, I was thinking.
And I really liked that because I could make the game more forgiving, and in doing so, I could make the game more challenging too.
Yep.
So I like, that feeling rather than like an easier level. But if you like die, you have to start all the way at the beginning. I'd rather have like, smaller chunks that are like more demanding, but more forgiving also.
I think it's very satisfying.
Yeah. I know you hate lives systems.
I do. Yeah.
It's very nice to not have to deal with that.
Yeah, they're outdated. Yeah, they're outdated, and and it's also interesting that you have a sort of health point system, and your game is one of the very few games I've ever experienced, if not the only, where if you fall down and die, you kind of pop back up if you still have a heart. And depending on the scenario, most of the time that works out for me. And it's really an interesting mechanic too. I don't know, maybe there's other games out there that do that, but I was like, oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, I stole that from Cuphead.
Okay. I played Cuphead and I don't remember that, but
I guess I forgot to.
I think they do.
Oh, I made that up. It's been a while. It's been a long time. So
I played Cuphead in a long time.
Yeah, but yeah, I think your game does have a nice balance because of those aspects of like good regular checkpoints, but some decent difficulty. And
yeah,
I haven't played a ton of the game. I haven't got like beaten it or anything, but the progression feels really great too.
Good.
Yeah. I'm in horrible heck right now, and there are a couple levels that are kicking my ass, but it always feels like
that seems to be the point where people say like, oh, there's a big difficulty spike here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense because you're going to hell.
Exactly. Yeah.
Works for the narrative, sure.
You would hope that. But I did want to talk a little bit, just kind of bringing it back a little bit to, you've obviously got a lot of like Nintendo and Super Nintendo and kind of classic game influence in this. This is a self-published game. Is that correct? Are you working with a publisher on this? Yeah.
No publishers. I might work with one to get on consoles.
That was going to be my question is, what are kind of your plans there? And then maybe like a little bit, just like, what is that process like? Because I know, we were talking about this when we were watching the Indie World recently. It was like, man, Pizza Tower was like a very successful game and was kind of an indie darling. And it took them a long time to get on Switch. I know they were self-published. What's that process like? Like, have you had difficulty with that? Is it something
I have no idea.
Looking forward to? Okay, right.
I just haven't gotten to it. I guess I'll say that there's the Nintendo website developer portal. You can request dev kits, and I've done it twice, and they said no. So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to a publisher, and they can do that shit for me.
It's notoriously difficult to get on Nintendo, and I know that surprises people, and I think that has maybe changed over the course of the Switch's life to be more picky because there was stuff early on that people said, but
I'm like, oh, what the hell? What? Why? Why? Because I see a lot of like weird stuff.
Yeah, right.
Like,
there's a million fucking hentai games.
What's wrong with the Garbanzo Quest, man?
Yeah. Well, I think it is what you're saying. I think the reason that there's so much slop on the eShop is that they just have an in. It's like it's these developers work with a publisher that got the pass, and they just don't revoke the pass once you have the pass, right? And so it's like that's why you see it's like there's 75 versions of AAA Clock or whatever, and all these like games get re-uploaded or whatever. And so definitely it feels like working with somebody is the play, just somebody that can
starting to learn.
Yeah. But I definitely wish you luck there. And I think obviously, this game would fit perfectly on the Switch.
That's what I keep saying.
Yeah.
Like I think it's perfect for the Switch.
Yeah. And I'm manifesting right now. It's definitely gonna happen. Yeah.
So with that, we're going to close out our main topic. Everybody go check out Garbanzo Quest. We're going to take another short break.
Please do.
Yes, please do.
Buy it 10 times.
And when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. This past week, I mostly played Minecraft, but I also did participate in the Splatoon 3 Salmon Run Big Run event. This was the first time in Splatoon 3 that they've like made a stage, though I assume it'll also be involved in the Splatfest next weekend. But it was maybe one of the best, definitely the best big run event, and just a ton of fun. And I haven't played Splatoon in a long time, or a relatively long time. And this is my favorite mode, and this is my favorite jam. And it was just really nice to come back to it and have fun. I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot else to talk about this week. So yeah.
I'll go because I really don't have much else to talk about. I mean, I met up with some friends on Saturday. We played Mario Kart 8, Smash Brothers, Nintendo Switch Sports, and then I started playing Nintendo Switch Sports to try to get more of the unlockable character cosmetics. Still loving golf. Still hating playing bowling online. Love playing bowling offline. But and then, you know, some other friends wanted to play Deadlock and Apex Legends. Some of our friends are getting really into Deadlock, and my brain doesn't quite get the meta yet, but I am just happy to play with some friends online, and that's what I'm going to let it be what it's going to be. And I'm never going to be a top tier Deadlock player, but
not with that attitude.
I don't think I care enough. I hear like people talk about MOBAs, and I'm like, dude, I don't care this much to be this anyway. But the two games I did want to shout out, I did finally quote unquote beat Hades. I rolled credits on Hades, which only took me 4 years and 60 hours. So this is a game I just had constantly installed on my computer, and every few months I'd go back, play a couple runs. So I finally, you roll credits after you beat Hades 10 times. That's all I will say. So I got the quote unquote story ending. I'm not really sure what content there is beyond there. I know there's a lot of like story content still left, because there is still things I was doing up until that point where I was unlocking like pretty big story beats that I did not know about. And I was like, whoa, okay. I thought I was getting really close to just knowing everything about everything, but it's really cool how much they packed into that game. Speaking of early access, I'm like, man, do I start Hades 2 now? Do I go there? I don't know. I think I'm going to wait till it's 1.0, and I still think I could go back to Hades and still enjoy it. But other than that, I also played again the demo for Nimrod's Guncraft Survivor, which is a game that was across from Patrick at San Japan. I just keep popping it open. It's like so addicting. I don't know. It's like it scratches the right itch of like somewhere between Vampire Survivors and something like a little bit more of a top-down shooter, and just really fun, man. I don't know. Just like scratches just the right itch. So I played a couple runs of that. It got pretty far, and there's like, I'm learning now that like the main map that you're on is consistent. So the more runs you do, the more of the map you unlock, which I thought was really cool, and a really cool way to do that. So I'm like, oh, okay, on this run, I went all the way to the left as far as I could go. Now I'm going to go all the way to the north, and I am unlocking things still as I like unlock more of the map, which I think is like a nice change from Vampire Survivors. I think that's like my main criticism of that game is that it is like, 30-minute runs, which is really nice, but it doesn't feel like you're building that much by playing the levels. You're building by like unlocking characters, unlocking items, and things of that nature. So I don't know. I just really am really enjoying this game. I think it's about to hit early access. So I might dip and see what's up and be part of that process, because the game already feels really solid as is, and is very fun to play as it is right now. So I'd love to see kind of like what they're going to add slowly over time to make it even better. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Yeah, I'll go next. I haven't been playing a ton. Well, I have been playing some stuff, but there's some stuff that I actually can't talk about that's under embargo that we'll be hopefully talking about soon. But obviously been playing a lot of Garbanzo Quest, played some of the Splatoon 3 Big Run, like you did, Patrick. I only played a little bit at the end, but I had a lot of fun. Got me really excited for the Splatfest. I like that stage that we were playing on, and it was very hectic. I almost fucking beat all three of the triumvirate or whatever they're called. I got two of them down. I was on the very, very, very last little sliver of health, and then I died right at the very end, and it was super depressing. And that was also the last run of the day. I only played for like a half hour, but super fun. I've been playing more Super Monkey Ball for the GameCube. I played a lot of that in Chicago in the arcades when I was there. So it's been fun going back and playing the actual GameCube version and just soaring through the levels that were giving me intense problems because the stick I was playing with in the arcade was broken. So it just felt good to slam through those. So that's been a ton of fun playing that. And then lastly, I want to give a shout out to our friend Ciectro, Marcus, who is putting out a new game called Tori Saturn. Sage right now is going on. It's a really cool kind of festival of fast-paced platforming games, and the Tori games are very much that. Tori Saturn is super fun, and it has kind of a drop dash mechanic and feels a lot faster than the other games, and feels really good. So I'm really excited for that to come out, and I've been really enjoying that demo quite a bit as well. What about you, Zach? You've been playing anything cool recently?
I haven't had too much time to play games, but yeah, there's a few I can mention. First, thank you for not spoiling the ending of Hades. I still only beaten it twice, so
You got a long way to go.
Yeah, I want to get back into that someday. But yeah, the one game I did play and beat recently was Fallen Leaf, which is another. If you haven't heard of it, it's actually a buddy of mine, or well, acquaintance, but we both live in the same area. But yeah, it's a really cool game. I really liked it. It's another like retro inspired platformer. Yeah, I'd recommend it. And I'm still trying to get through the DLC for Elden Ring. Yeah, I love Souls games. Been a fan since Demon's Souls. Yeah, I just love those games. I'm really excited to play more of it when I have the time. I'm still pretty busy.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine releasing a game is you'd
I'm still hustling.
You'd like to think you're done, but no, there's patching and all that kind of stuff. No. Yeah,
the hustle is alive and well. Yeah.
Okay, well, that is gonna do it for this episode number 274 on Garbanzo Quest. Zachary, thank you so much for coming and joining us. We really appreciate your time. Thank you also to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thank you also to Corduroy, who does our music. And big thank you to all our patrons on Patreon. We really appreciate your support. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, you can find me as PDYX.
You can find me on the internet at Bordan. I'm
pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Zach? Where can people find you or your game online?
GarbanzoQuest.com. GarbanzoQuest.com.
Very good. Very good. The kids yearn for URLs. All right. We want to type something into a search bar again. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, definitely check out Garbanzo Quest. It's on Steam. The 1.0 is out. It's an amazing game. If you couldn't tell already, we've been gushing on it this whole time. Great game. Definitely check it out. If you'd like to find, of course. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We got a website, switchheadz.com. Hey, there you go, URLs. And then we'll have a link to 3 things in the description of this episode. We got a Facebook group, we got our Discord, and we have our Patreon. Feel free to check all 3 of those out. Whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple or Spotify, those will be in the description there. And please, give us a subscribe on YouTube, leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. That is super appreciated, and it helps us grow our show. And please join us over on the Discord. We love our community so much, as hopefully was very apparent earlier in the episode, and we'll be getting into that a lot more in the weeks to come. But I want to thank you guys so much, and thank you one more time, Zach. What a great episode. We're going to be back next week with another banger. But until then, guys, you know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Why don't you make your own engine and spend 3 years making a game that just shows the inside of your brain? Otherwise, we love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.